someone's dog's gonna attack somebody here. Can you hear it?
Yeah. What is that?
All right.
I just got out of the car. Someone's dog's going wild. They can probably hear it.
You can hear it a little. You can hear it a little bit.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining Wager Warriors tonight. We're doing a trainers edition. So we have trainer Michael Moore from Parks and trainer Brandon Presto from the Meadows. So a thoroughbred trainer and a standardbred trainer. If you have any questions during our live feed, just comment below and we'll get to your questions. So I think we're going to kick it off. Michael, Brandon, you too, you both didn't have a start into horse racing like most. You weren't born into it. So let's talk a little bit about your start into training and how you decided that this is the career you wanted.
All right, go ahead, Mike. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I had no horse background. I didn't grow up around horses at all. I'd say when I was 16, 17, I went to the track a couple times. For whatever reason, like that, enjoyed actually gambling on them originally, and for some reason I was intrigued on like how they train the horses to get them ready to race. So I ended up getting a job on a thoroughbred farm, Danny Lopez's thoroughbred farm in Medford, New Jersey. And I didn't know one thing about a horse, not one thing. But he had me out there painting fences and mowing grass. But I was always like, I'd like to work with the horses too. So little by little, I learned. In the meantime, I was going to Rutgers University, so I went back and forth from there. But I really liked the horses. But obviously, it was hard to make any real money at that time. So I stayed doing that for a little while, having other jobs along the way. I ended up getting some grooming jobs and whatnot for Danny Lopez and a couple other people. Down the line there, I ended up getting a job on the starting gate, which I worked about 5 years, I guess, at Parks on the starting gate, and a couple years at Monmouth as well. And luckily, I got real lucky. I got a horse. I bought a horse cheap. It actually was $2,500 on the cuff, meaning I didn't have to pay any money unless the horse made some money. A woman had bred the horse and just wanted the horse to get to the races. So I said, okay, I'll take the horse. And the horse ended up making a couple $100,000 for me, which allowed me to claim a couple more horses. And then little by little, go out on my own. And then little by little just build up, from there. And fortunately, it's worked out well thus far.
That's awesome. How about you, Brandon?
So it's actually kind of funny. So mine's pretty similar to Mike's there. So I started going out to the Meadows as a kid with my grandpa and my dad, and it was more of the betting scene as well. And we had the old grandstands at the Meadows, so you could actually stand at the fence and the horses would be walking right by. So it's kind of funny, like Dave Malone drives a lot of my horses now, and I was a kid asking him for his whip after every race, a few years ago. So that part is pretty neat. So I started with Dane Snyder. He gave me all the opportunity to learn the business. I only wanted to jog horses because that was what looked fun. And he said, well, we got to start cleaning these stalls. And I was like, oh, well, this is bad. So, I started, he did it the right way. I think learning the roots of it and how to take care of the horse. And then like the jogging was extra. So I was pretty fortunate for that. Did that when I probably was around 13 and summer vacations, weekends from school and stuff like that. Stayed with him for a few years and then graduated high school and moved about an hour and a half away and helped Chris Rickert as his second trainer. He helped me get my license to qualify and drive. So it worked for him. It was a little tougher at the track. It seems like everybody has a schedule because of the races, so you have to be kind of done by noon. Chris Rickert's was 24 hours, so there was never an end time. But everything was good, and I came down back to the Meadows and worked for Ronnie Burke, and he, I had all the roots down, and then his training has kind of made me somewhat successful today.
it's kind of funny where you guys got your first jobs, Parks in the Meadows, you stuck there and trained there. Is there a reason why you decided to stay at Parks or the Meadows?
For me, I mean, it's where I live, and I mean, at least I don't know about the Meadows, but like Parks is year round, so that's, to me, it's nice. You know, we don't move, all around from track to track. That being said, I know Brandon's coming back from Florida. It would be nice to go to Florida, to train, but I mean, you need the right horses for down there, unless you're just going, on vacation. So, but yeah, I think basically for me, it's just that it's year round here, and you're set right here. So
Yeah, that's the same for me. I grew up 10 minutes from the track. We race year round, which is definitely a plus.
yeah,
Shipping, if I needed to ship to Northfield or some other tracks, they're reasonable to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, same with me. There's so many tracks right around Parks, whether it's Delaware, Monmouth, New York or Maryland. It's in a great spot as far as that's concerned. Like one person said to me about when they were at Gulfstream, I never really thought about it. Like he said, the thing is if your races don't go at Gulfstream, you got nowhere to go. Like you're not shipping to a few tracks right around there. There's Tampa a few hours away, and they don't want you to ship there. So it's a lot different.
Yeah, definitely. What about, so training really isn't a 9 to 5 job. How's your day-to-day routine?
Me or Brandon or
You can go first.
okay. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike. You're good.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's not even close to 9 to 5. I mean, like when I first started training, somebody said to me, they said, Mike, training horses, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And it really is. I mean, I get up every morning at about 3:20, I'm at the barn right before 4 o'clock, and it's virtually every day. And, for instance, my parents, they wonder like how you do that. Don't you want to go on vacation? Don't you want to go on vacation? And I mean, it would be nice, but it's very hard to do. But I will say I don't do my job wondering when I'm going to go on vacation, because it doesn't, even though it is work, that's what you love to do. So you're not waiting, for your next vacation. So.
What about you, Brandon?
Well, I guess it's a bad time about vacations. I'm on my way back. it is to go to that. It is hard to leave because we have, it's not like leaving and have your neighbors watch your dog if you don't have good help and stuff.
Yeah.
I have around 23 horses right now. So if, for me to go away right now, I have a really good group of employees and help. And so it makes it so I can do that. But it's hard to call up somebody and say, hey, can you watch these 23 horses for me?
Yeah.
I'll be back in a week.
Yeah. That's what I always say. Like our business is so different than, a store per se. Like you can't just shut down. You don't go, well, we're shutting down today, because, they're live animals. They always need care, every day. Even if you're not training, they still need care, regardless.
Yep. And as you talk about caretakers and people to help out when you want to go away or do anything, how many people do you think you guys each employ, and how important are they to the operation? Michael, you can go first.
I mean, I probably employ about 8 people, I think. And I mean, it might be the most important thing, because first of all, for me at Parks, it's hard to find a lot of help, and especially a lot of good help. Like you just said, like help you could trust to leave, I mean, we have my operation, my wife helps me a lot. Her sister helps a lot. So it's people you trust, but they are so important, because they're doing the day-to-day thing, taking care of the horses, looking for problems. So they're very important.
How about you, Brandon? How many people do you employ, and how important is that? Obviously very important.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
I have 3 that are main employees, and then I have I'm not sure if it'd be the same for Mike or not, like just a couple guys to help ride in the morning. So they would actually get paid by the horse on busy days. So they're not full-time employees. They're just as needed. So if we're in like a first race, we race during the day, which I believe Parks does too.
Yeah.
So the mornings are a little bit crammed if you're in an early race to get done.
Yeah.
so those days I would be using an extra rider. But yeah, help's probably definitely the most important thing next to the blacksmith, I suppose. But help's probably a little more important than the blacksmith.
I don't know. The blacksmith's pretty important too.
The blacksmith is very important. Yeah, the top two,
Yeah.
blacksmith and help.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think my second trainer is Tim. Donnell knows Tim, and he's my right hand man, and the girls are both good too. So they don't miss much, and you know, it's a good thing that I have what I have now, because it is hard to find good help.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, I always think it's interesting too, so you guys can go into it, the difference between a thoroughbred schedule and a standardbred schedule. So I guess Brandon, kind of tell them how day to day what a standardbred does, their jogging schedule, and then race days, and then we'll go to the thoroughbred side.
Okay. Yeah. So like our normal routine for our horse would just making it easy would be like if they raced on Wednesday, they get the day off on Thursday, which mine, I would take them out, turn them out in the field, bring them back in. Then they would jog Friday, and then they would train 2 trips on Saturday, be off Sunday, jog Monday, Tuesday, and then race again on Wednesday. So Sundays, everybody's off. Day after the race, they get turned out, weather permitting, I suppose. And I think how we train 2 trips is a little different from what Mike will be saying that they do. But just from my other buddy that I knew in the thoroughbred business, he was like 2 trips. Now, what does that mean? So
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you that. What exactly is 2 trips?
So 2 trips for us. So we would get them ready with their full race equipment, take them out on the track, jog them about 1.5 miles, and then we would turn them the raceway, train them a mile in, like, say 2:30. They go back to the barn. They stand for about a half hour, leave all their equipment on, go back down to the track, jog 1 lap, and then they would train in like 2:15, and then they'd be done. They would get the next day off after that. But it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Compared to your training schedule is a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah, we're a lot different. I mean, one thing is I know our horses for the most part don't run as much as your horses. Like you tend to run once a week pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I want my horses to run, ideally probably once every 3 weeks. Some a little less, some a little more, depending on the problems they have. But yeah, like I'll run a horse and then he'll walk for the next 3 days. Then they'll probably start out going out and jogging 1 mile. And then from there, they start galloping each day, 1.5 miles, gallop 1.5 miles. But it's only one time a morning. I mean, people have toyed with like interval training and thoroughbreds, but I don't personally think the thoroughbred really can stand up to that.
Right.
Yeah. Now, so since you enter every 3 weeks, how does entering the horses and classifying and all that work in the thoroughbred world versus Brandon? You can talk about how standardbreds is week to week.
Say that again. As far as entering what?
The entering of horses, since it's every 3 weeks. So do you kind of have it planned out, same classifying?
Yeah. I mean, we have a condition book with all the races coming up for the month, and you try to plan it out with when the race comes up. If you are going 3 weeks to a month, we do what you call breezing the horse. Say about a week out before the race, whether it's a half mile or 5/8. That's how we'll prepare for the race to get them a little tighter for the race. But yeah, I mean, you basically you try to use the condition book to plan for the race.
Brandon, kind of the same thing with the condition sheet. We're just week to week, right?
Yeah, right. We do the same thing. It's just week to week, and my biggest thing is that's different than the thoroughbreds, and I don't know much about their races and whatnot. But I always worry, like, we're supposed to have really bad snow. Are they going to cancel? Well, we're always on the same track. So like your horses, that if you ever have that predicament, I don't know if at Parks, if it is or not, but like the turf or the dirt, if you're on one and then you scratch because you don't want the other track, we don't have that issue. I'd probably have more anxiety if I did.
Well, yeah, I mean, we only have the dirt track. I mean, we have turf in the summer, but not during the winter. Only, it's really only down in Florida, the turf,
Okay.
during these months. So we basically only have the dirt Yeah, if we get bad weather like that, we'll end up canceling the races or canceling training.
Yeah, the weather, definitely Pennsylvania has the weather elements thrown at you.
Yeah.
Now, Michael, you had your first graded stakes winner this summer. What other, is that probably your best success story as a trainer, or do you have any other success stories?
That would be considered the biggest race I ever won. That was 300,000. And it was you're right. That was the only. I mean, I think it's the only graded race I've run in. So that was a big win. I mean, I've won some other stakes. I won a claiming crown race down in Florida. Couple other stakes, but nothing as big as that one. That was a good one to win, and it was nice that it was right at Park. So that was nice.
What about you, Brandon? Any success stories?
So most of mine are just claimers. I bought a couple parts of some yearlings, so a few years back, and he was pretty good as a 2-year-old. I think he made about 80,000, and then we put him in the Adios. That's our biggest race here at the Meadows, and he was in the elimination, which he was way over his head, and entry fee was $5,000, but we took the shot of it just because the shot to have that happen again is really slim, and he finished 5th in the elimination. We didn't put him in the final just because it wasn't worth it, but that's about the closest to a big race that I would have had. All claiming success and just young horses running through the conditions for our barn.
Yeah. And I just want to put a reminder out to anyone watching on Facebook that if you do have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. And then back to you guys. Since we talked a little bit about claimers, I guess, Brandon, do you want to explain what a claimer is and how it works in the standardbred world? And then we can just tell us a little bit how you pick the horses that you're going to claim.
Yeah, so just making it simple. So our claiming races, there's a couple each day, like for here, Tuesdays is Mayor's Day, so you'd have all your mayor claimers. Mayors cost an extra 20%. That's their allowance just for being a mayor. And then if different ages have different allowances. So 3-year-olds are 50%, 4-year-olds are 25%, and then you'd have your mayor allowance as well. That would be after 5 if they're geldings. It's just the base tag. So if there would be multiple claims, then you go into the bookkeeper, fill out your claim form, cashier's check. And if there would be multiples, then it would be up to the judges to do a luck of the draw. And they decide that before the race. And the previous owners, they would receive the winnings from the horse in that race. And then you would take over the horse after the race would be over and they do the testing through the commission.
What about for thoroughbreds? How's the claiming work that way? Is it similar?
Yeah, it's very similar. Parks, though, the claiming range runs from about 5,000, actually from 5,000 to about 40,000, anywhere in between. Same type of thing. You go over to the paddock, you look at the horses before the race as they're walking around. You have until 10 minutes to drop a slip on the horse, and once you drop a slip, if you're the only one who drops, you get the horse. If not, you're gonna have a shake, and like Brandon said, it's like luck of the draw. Whoever comes out gets the horse. Then the horse goes to the test barn, and if the horse is at all lame or at all lame, it will be voided. So you won't get it, but that's the process.
Yep. And now, so if people are watching today and they see that you're trainers and they want to get involved, because our last seminar was about ownership, could they contact you? Do you take owners, both of you, or you kind of have your set stable since you're both at 18 to 20 horses?
I'm always open to hearing from new owners. You want people. For me, you want people that are going to give you some good horses. That's the key thing to win in races. You need good horses. So somebody wants to claim good horses or they have good horses, yeah, I'd be glad to take them.
Brandon?
I missed your question.
As far as new owners, are you always interested in new owners if they're watching out there today?
Yeah, no, definitely always. You never pass up an owner unless you get the bad reviews from another trainer.
Yeah.
I guess you always look for your loyal owners. So even if you get new owners, you still tiptoe around your main guys because they have preference. They've been in your barn longer, but you never turn anyone down.
Is there any advice you have to anyone that's thinking about getting into the horse game?
I lost service there a second. What'd you say again?
Well, go ahead, Michael, if you have any.
I mean, to me, it's a tough game. And, I had an owner one time who was told me that, he said, Mike, I've invested 50,000 in this game, and I looked at him right away and said, well, that's a bad term to use. I mean, you're not investing in this game. You're hoping you hope you have fun and you hope you make a profit, but many people don't. So you can't come in thinking I'm making a profit. It'd be great if you do, but it's a tough game. You gotta learn from people, and just beware. Be ready for. There's a lot of lows in the game. When you win, it's great, but there's a lot of disappointments on it because the horses are fragile. It's a tough game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to realize is you guys don't have a steady income either. It's you have your ups, you have your highs. It's all in how hard you work and everything. So it definitely has to show.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was reading a comment, but that's not a question. If anyone does have questions, they can put it in our comment section. Brandon, do you have any advice for anyone getting into the horse game?
I think the first time owner deal. I mean, if you wanted to get into the business, if you said, hey, I have 10,000, but I don't want to lose it, I would say, well, wait till you have 20, and then we'll put 10 in. Never would tell someone to put all their money in on one horse, even if I thought it was something good. I always suggest never to do partners, just because if you can do the horse yourself, then you're the boss. Partners always end up with conflict, and it chunks up the money too. Less risk, less reward, but the horse business is a gamble. So most owners that are in it, they want the big swings. But yeah, definitely can't count on it as your job unless you're going to buy 200 of them.
Yeah.
Are you guys looking forward to anything in 2023? Do you set goals for your stable each year? Like Brandon, I think one of your accomplishments would be that you stand on the top 5 trainers at the Meadows, wouldn't you think?
That's been my spot for a good while. It's hard to move past those just because the guys that are ahead of me have such a big barn. And for the Meadows, they go by number of wins. So I probably have maybe like the 10th or 12th numbers wise barn, and I try to fit in the top 5 for wins. But with claimers, I'm claiming the best horses, so I do have a lot better time winning races because I'm always racing the favorite most of the time. It makes things a little bit easier.
I can't hear you.
Oh, Brandon, we're going to mute you for a minute.
All right.
What about you? I forget what I even asked him.
I think you said, do you set goals? I mean, this year actually has been a real good year for me and for us. We I've had career highs and wins and purse money, so it's going great this year. I think I'm 7th or 8th in the standings, which I'm not normally that high. So I mean, if I could have another year like this, it would be great. This has been a really good year, and we won the Turf Monster this year, so that was all part of it.
Yeah, that's definitely an exciting year. It'll be hard to top something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now let's go to equipment. So when you claim one or when you're getting one ready, how do you decide equipment for the horses and what they want?
Basically you're deciding mostly on bits and blinkers, in our game. And a lot of time it depends how tough the horse is. If the horse is real tough to gallop, you might go with a stronger bit. Same thing with, if your rider in the morning will say that the horse spent a lot of his time training, looking around at things, you put blinkers on him. Now, a lot of times you're going to claim a horse and they're going to have their equipment on already. So if you claim a horse and he runs great, well, then you're not going to change the equipment. If he doesn't run that well and then you train him and you try to figure out, this horse goes a little better with this or that, then you make some changes. But if you claim him and he runs good, I stick with what he's got on.
Yeah. Now you also have to determine turf or dirt. So do you have a way that you determine that, or it's just trial and error?
I mean, again, if you're claiming, their form's pretty much set. You could go by breeding, but most of the time you'll claim knowing that he runs on the turf or she runs on the dirt solely. Now, for instance, in That's Right's case, he was running on the dirt and he was just okay. And then we switched him to the turf and he became a stake horse. So, we just wanted to give him a try on the turf. And in that case, it really benefited him and us, obviously.
So did you think he was going to be a stakes horse when you started out with him, or you didn't have those high hopes?
No, he showed talent on the dirt, but he never ran great. He wouldn't finish his races real good. He kind of quit at the end. So then I really wanted to try him shorter, which was 5 furlongs and on the turf. And then just when he got on the turf, he just became a different horse.
All right, Brandon, you'll have to unmute yourself, but what about you? For standardbreds have a little bit more equipment to wear. So how do you determine what equipment when you're training?
So I think with the claimers, like Mike was saying, if you claim them and they won, you pretty much just look to see what they had on them and leave everything the same. I always usually ask the driver after the race, was he on a left line or a right line? And if they think of any changes, it's a lot easier to make changes when you're in the race and you get your feedback from your drivers. Just because even training, we're not going as fast as in the race. So the difference of like a Murphy blind or head pole training and racing could be, it could be the reason to get beat nose, and that's big money. But as far as other horses, new ones like we buy from the sale and whatnot, you just start them out with nothing and then just start adding. And first start is usually a trial run and go from there.
Yep. Now, so you get to list who you want to be your jockey or driver. How do you guys determine who you're going to list on horse?
I mean, me personally, I've had good success with Andy Hernandez this year. He's a kid who was an apprentice rider. He comes to the barn every day and helps me out, get a couple horses out. Other than that, I mean, a lot of time it's your relationship with their agent also. As long as you like the rider, you get along with the agent well, that's part of it too. But for me, a lot of it is just them helping you out in the morning, training your horses.
Mm-hmm. So you have the jockeys come to ride then?
Yeah, they'll come in the morning and get on one or two or something like that, just to help you get them all out.
What about you for drivers? Brandon, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
How do you decide who's driving your horse from each?
I think with my horses, if a horse needs somebody a little bit more aggressive, I go that route. Or if you need somebody a little bit calmer, patient, young horses, I try to get maybe the guys that are just been driving for a while versus somebody that would be younger. Ours would be P drivers. I guess that would be equivalent to the apprentice jockeys. So that's about it. And then we go down the list. Usually you put whoever down to drive your horse, and you end up without them anyway. Versus, I don't know if Mike could say you already know who your jockey is, or do you actually have to make changes?
Well, the only time you need to make a change is if somebody tells you, like one agent tells you that they can ride your horse, and then later in the morning they say, "Oh, I got a different horse," so you're gonna have to find somebody different. But once they're named on, they're on.
Now, how's that work with agents? So they kind of determine, how does that work?
The agent basically takes care of the jockey's business, so they line up the mounts for the jockey, and try to get their jockeys on as many good mounts as they can, and then they get commission from the jockey, for winning.
So does every jockey have an agent then?
Pretty much. There might be a couple that don't, but it's definitely to the jockey's advantage to have an agent because they keep track of all the entries and double calls that other riders have, and so yeah, definitely most riders have an agent.
Yeah, that's interesting because the drivers that doesn't really translate to the standardbred industry. They're just drivers.
No agents.
No agents. They just
Oh.
campaign for themselves, or you get listed, and that's that.
Gotcha.
We do have a question from the audience. So the question is, what about claiming a horse to become a broodmare? They've done that before and it's been good success. Have you guys ever done that or recommend that?
I know people do that. I think I've had a couple times where somebody's asked me to do that, but then I couldn't do it because I didn't claim off of that person. But people do that, every now and then.
Yep.
That question, claim them for broodmares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done it. Yeah, unless somebody would call, and I never had anybody call to do that. We have seen a couple times though at the Meadows, like our condition claimers. Nobody really claims them out of there to race just because the tags are high and they're not really in there to claim them. But people don't realize how much their horse is actually worth because we don't know enough about the broodmare side of it. And then somebody's happy, and sometimes the breeding farms get a deal, I suppose.
No, so Brandon talked about condition claimers. How are the classes kind of different? Like, Mike, what are some classes that you enter your thoroughbred horses into?
Yeah, there's all different types of classes. You start out with maidens, horses have never won, or a maiden claimer, which you can claim the horse. And then you have a never win 2, a never win 3, a never win 4, for 7,500 or 12,500. And once horses go through those conditions, then they got to go into open claiming, which could be like open 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, and then you're upwards to the better horses, which are allowance horses and stake horses.
Brandon, how would you say our classes kind of go?
So I feel like they start out the same. We have non-winners of 1 to non-winners of 3 or just straight classes, and then they start combining like winners of 2, but not more than 3. Those classes, as you go higher, they get tougher. Prices of horses went up, so they've changed the claiming tags. You're racing against good horses, so the days of buying something cheap and be competitive is probably behind us. But when you can't compete in those classes, then that's when we have our condition claimers. We would drop them in there, and then they do get tags. They're high, but people still do claim out of those.
Yep. We have another question. When Mike lays a horse up for a few months, does he like to bring them right back to the track, or has he had success with an aqua treadmill or jogging machine? So how do you kind of bring one back?
I've done both. And I think both work. The one thing is, if you get them jogging or an aqua machine, they gets them, a little bit fit, but on the other hand, sometimes I like just them coming right to me, because then right where they're at all times. You don't have to get them back and you're like, this one's, not quite right. I don't know what happened, whereas if you get them, where they haven't done anything yet, exactly where they're at.
Yep. And then we have another question for you, Mike. Do you know why they don't write races for horses 5 to 10 now that you see horses running long? Most is 4 and up. So they kind of just classify them, I believe is what they're saying, just 4 and up.
Instead of 5 to 10? Yeah, honestly, I've never seen a horse race listed as for 5-year-old to 10 years old. It can be either 3 and up or 4 and up. But that's how it is now, basically 4 years old and up.
Yeah, the standardbred world, which Brandon can say. Brandon, what is it? It's like 5 to 8 year olds, or the mating you can only be till 6 years old, and then
our maidens would be like 2 to 6 year olds, and then they have there's a couple like 3 to 6 year olds. I know like Poconos would have like a 3 and 4 year old claimer. We don't have those yet, but we're starting to fill our claiming races pretty good. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't start that. That just makes it a little bit more competitive. Keep the young horses together. First racing with
Right.
horses made $500,000 and eight.
Right.
Oh, wait, I think we have one. So do you think that horses are running longer now, but the older have to run against the younger in a class? Right. In other words, the horses running longer, but the older ones have to run against the younger ones. So do you think-
I mean, in thoroughbred, they do, like a 10-year-old can be running against a 4-year-old, but, yeah, I mean, that's in most cases, that's in your cheaper claiming races. In most cases, not always, but in most cases.
Yep. Now, do you prefer an age of a horse for the thoroughbreds? Like, will you claim one that's a little older, or would you rather them be younger?
Yeah, I mean, for me, claiming wise, I would stay away from 8, 9, 10-year-olds. They usually had a lot of races. They basically are what they are. There's the occasional one that can be real good still at that age, but I think as a rule, I stay away. Like for me, I really like them. 4 or 5 years old. That's kind of, I think, in their prime right there.
Yep. Brandon, now, well, Mike, what age do they have to retire as a thoroughbred? Is there a limit on how long they can race?
It really depends what track. I mean, some tracks will let you run only till you're 10. Some will let you run till you're 11. I don't know if you can run much older than that. I mean, I don't see 12-year-olds running. So.
Yeah. Brandon, what do you think for standardbred world? I mean, they can race until they're 15, but does that affect who you're claiming, the age of the horse?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm not real picky. I pretty much just claim off their lines. If they're winning, then I claim them. For instance, the last horse that was an old horse, and everybody from like the Meadows and Pocono ways, everybody's had him as Dream Out Loud. He was 14 years old, and he was still getting claimed in like November, and January 1st he was never allowed to race again. But he kept winning. He won every week, and they actually made an exception and allowed him to race amateurs for one more year. And he went to the Meadowlands and did that, and he's actually back at the Meadows. And he's one of our outriding horses.
So a standardbred can run till they're 14 years old?
14, yeah. When they turn 15, that would be it. But
Really?
they did allow
Wow.
him to race at 15, amateur races only.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we have, I believe, 3 or 4 this year that will be turning 15 January 1st. So we usually get them blankets at the Meadows and then the little retirement ceremony, technically.
Does Brandon, do you run at the Meadowlands at all?
I don't. I've went out and watched some races there before, and that'd probably be one of my bucket list deals to race something out.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I've never ventured that far.
All right, I have 2 more questions for you, Mike. The first,
is anything from Jeff Matty yet?
they sure are. These 2 are. He said he was waiting on this.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one is, Mike, do you feel as though a lot of turf horses take to the poly surface?
I mean, people say they do. I don't have much. I don't have much experience of running turf horses on poly tracks. I mean, Jeff wants to do that. That might be why he's asking this question. But he's supposed to be doing that soon, so we'll see.
Oh boy. And then a second question is, you seem to have a lot of success with regional bred horses, whether it be Pennsylvania breds or New Jersey breds. Do you tend to keep a closer eye on those restricted types?
Yeah, definitely, because especially in Pennsylvania, the money's so good for Pennsylvania breds. So you definitely keep an eye on that. And I know Jeff, he in particular loves to keep an eye on Jersey breds, because he loves racing up at Monmouth Park, and Jersey breds, they make a lot of money also up there.
Brandon, you kind of stick with PA breds for as far as maidens and condition claimers, don't you think? Because there's more incentive.
Yeah, there's the purses are a little bit better because of the PA bonus. And then also, if we have a lot of horses with our purses going up, some people have been shipping in and whatnot. So if your owners aren't Pennsylvania owners, then they need their Pennsylvania sired horses to be able to get in.
Now, you both say you have around 18 to 25 horses. Do you like to keep your number right at there, or would you rather have more or less, Brandon?
No, I think that's good. I'll be probably regretting that when the winter gets really bad. But 20 is like a good number, I feel like, for us with the help that I have.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, that's very similar. I mean, I think around that. I mean, also how many stalls were allotted, and I'm allotted 21 stalls right now, so that's about the number. And again, like what Brandon just said, I mean, you know, you could have a lot more horses, but you also need a lot more help, and it's hard to find a lot more help. So, you know, for us, that number's, you know, the most comfortable right now.
Well, I guess we will wrap things up. Thank you both for joining us. And you know what? If anyone wants to get in contact with you guys, I'll let you know for training. This has been educational. So thank you both for joining us. And then make sure everyone's aware, Caregiver Day, December 14th. So we'll be giving out sweatshirts and beanies to all our caregivers. So you'll see us at Parks, the Meadows, Harrah's, and Penn National. So, but thank you guys very much for joining us tonight, and that'll be all.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Donnell. Nice meeting you, Mike.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Good luck.
All right. Take care. You
All
too.
right. Thanks, Donnell.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Bye.